Ready, PNCC ready. 87.9 home ready. Okay. Otherwise, malungi li tasil sil merkao spy de ili tasil sil mer aluren sertel 87.9 ang rel belau ma direct loren sergidra igel bebi radio station o sergidra TV la channel 73 tiang ngongerul time il gibem top dra TV ma radio il alsils maktimo maktaklo sa tiang special tokubet sil press conference il momsader sel Sterile Corridor adlong le lablur Taiwan ma blur belau ma wera bodo mule kwa Kuidi olgyong sa COS akumdas fe COS engel igeng lungu ratuta igeng malding lungu edel altal silsil mama tikmo olgyong muskaw mukha musus sirgi del al suelbe de bon
mada mal lungilita silsil morar veklaad waigel bladong plus tiang ati continuation or selm press conference sergi del al tutaw manglungu amalamol masusa amalamol gida kukluotal marmar ilang algidel amayang al-ais, al-bolo ay sirgidel al-yatasil sa president, lawanggel atang aklal al-ambasador gidara amnara Taiwan al-may. Ma kugiw siya direct al-kuktibok introducer tirgel adal dimla kalawanggel al-tutara press conference, kukura ba esel madal ngartiyang. Tutatam nil adara HHS lawanggel ambasador amrigel, il-alyata swel ba, tulor gidel al-time ambasador balura Taiwan, His Excellency Ambassador Cho, direct lobongge chairman ergidra Palau Visitors Authority ngiray balast matuol direct mga tangat afternoon lobongge director of public health Michelle Madraisaw ma incident commander ngiya Riter Utoy diraka tulor gidra ang algidel tial continuation da press conference so without further ado Mr. President kildraw la likorkaw malwam program rigid
malungil litasil sa morar bekla dal no sa iluk oreng sectorial station or alsil sa ngara TV ak mutum nga sulela PNCC ma tial streaming al tira maskid relal litasil kita magtatang loro lo mangela blura Taiwan lo sikrolel lo se magra adomu ora Aurora klang godang lo bantril mutil mo angaramu mang terura dim nakadilo mureli siradrur tagam na tira da modur ambasador mo da milsa odringi momre gasenkyo gadidio sikrolo setiam magra omu di sel gotel nararudor sel tamel merelang ase magra doruringi eda sel baklar adar belang mang Akti soal share tiagi del photo del sharing a Dr. Bira 2000. Kada open, but we open with care. Meaning, kada make sure kada open, katmok, protected abalwat. Sige da low to telen. Mang aigel do sera lomo la. Kada milsador serul da so ase magrada li mang bol sterile. Sterile ablo asing hindi kang korangod al moso isabra alsel. Kligi. Kung sa ser best example lo speria Dr. Quarterelli lo ase seru era da bora surgical ward engineer ma make sure kada na disinfect de ka baiging ergide moso isabra alsel. Masel kidamla ter kligi ma ablura Taiwan atiagid. Kada momo lopta tirar turist el mel mo de ka quarantine erti. Di tiagida olga el bodos peri. Girir lunga test ra airport. Tagalo la rin rablo. Tumura al sel airport which endri atam lorina Taiwan tamomruni il digir el bela. Le selul daso ase mukada mal shulo ase dimla lunga test lo ligo gorak munger ebol el bor airport. Kadam dangelo ase kadam la tester tir they're clean e masar skogi el merablul covid free. Kadam na make sure ase sel imora sel protection kita ngar sel hotel lungil sebel di partner siya si Malmay, hindi rin kalatasin, maybe nga rin atalgibal teal. Malmay katamo control, nga rin hotel boringi, hindi ka dil loyli ra ngi dilger, alsum tumora restaurant, hindi tira nga rin restaurant, nga rin igel, kada kasing restricted movement talme. Siya ulit katamal, stress siya gito kasi, kada open, di, with care. Katamal make sure, kada selbak. Aktimo open ola baigel, tukor belaw, yung ay silwa siya asil, silwa sa adri, April 1st. Tiyan April 1st, so kada katsalungi lang, bluol. Hindi, asil sa girel April 1st. Siya girel kotol or takar okya kan mekmera dara blur belaw. Amle kiblam kangeringi, amle ongi trataiwang alme ase March 28, dengan isel flight or takar arsme elme, egid ang arsel flight, elmora Taiwan, tirar gotro kyaksang elme. Sa egid amo schedule egid ma adirungin lang ko toram rigel maybe kung kanit rigel sa elid ang arsel vital blue, eldiral sorry reme rong sitial to. So, Ambassador, first of all, thank you. Thank you for being so patient and understanding and working with us over the past few months. Well, actually, it's been like 6 months. It seems like forever. And, we've had many meetings, and we were hoping that the flights would start January 21. That was the goal. But we got the minister to visit. And that was an important step, I believe, in this process. Getting the CEC team to Palau was also a very important step in this process. They came on January 6th and 7th, I say 7th. They were here for a few days. They came and toured our facilities, and they get confidence in our facilities and our processes, because just like Palau, which is COVID-free, Taiwan is very much COVID-safe, and for the most part, they are COVID-free. So just like they're afraid of us, we are afraid of them, right? So I think it was important that they came and they saw. And now they have confidence in our system, and they know that we are truly COVID-free. And I think we now believe that they're truly COVID-safe. They have COVID, but they catch most of it at the border. Yes, there was one case that got in the community recently, but I think we all have the confidence. And I think a very important statistic that we learned today was just shared by Dr. Bostrom and the team, was let's calculate risk. And they shared with us today that the risk of getting a COVID case from Taiwan to Palau, based on historical data, is 1 in 3.9 million, blah, blah, blah. So 1 in 4 million. Or in flight terms, 1 in 40,000 flights. But of course, it can come in the first flight. But the point is, the risk is very low. And we're doing everything to make sure that risk is as low as possible. And I think that takes a commitment by both sides. And I really appreciate the government of Taiwan's efforts, CEC in Taiwan, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Minister of Health, and President Chai. When we had our first Zoom conference with her, I said, we're ready. When will you be ready? Yeah. So today we're happy to announce that the date of the official tourist coming to Palau will be April 1st. April 1st. Because that's when they will have the machine at the airport to do also a first, to do PCR testing in the airport. Why is that so important? Part of what we've been talking about, the Sterile Corridor, is making sure that nothing gets into the system. We want to make sure, we're confident that they don't have COVID, but just to make sure, we're going to test them at the airport. Why are we testing them at the airport? To make sure that they don't have any other chance of getting it anywhere. They get on the plane, they come to Palau, they're free to go and enjoy Palau as soon as they get off the plane. So we want to welcome them and not be concerned. And they're free to go, but we are still limiting their movement, right? And we appreciate their understanding for that, because they will be only going to the hotels, going to the Rock Islands, going to restaurants, not mixing with the general public. If they're going to a store, they will have specified times. Those kinds of things, just that we add that extra layer of protection. And that's why we keep on sharing this photo. We open, we're shielded, but with care. And that's what we want to make sure that our citizens here feel safe. And I think more importantly, your citizens feel safe that they're coming into a COVID-free environment, that we have strict rules, and we want to make sure that you return safe and not have any fear. So life can go back to normal, and we can really treat this as almost a domestic flight. I'm sorry we're requiring the test, but we still have the status COVID-free.
Yes.
So, and we appreciate your understanding by allowing the people to do this at the airport. I mean, that's just so important. So I want to take this opportunity and just give the ambassador the opportunity to share and maybe tell us more before we open up for questions. Yeah. Please, Ambassador.
Okay. Thank you, President Ali and Odosong. Yeah, it's really my honor to join the President in announcing the activation of the Sterile Corridor on April 1st. That's Smart People's Day, not Fool's Day.
Oh, Smart People's Day, I like that one.
Yeah, because it's been negotiated between the smart people. So we, over the last few months, President says 6 months, I think maybe longer than that. We have thinking about how to open this. You call it Sterile Corridor, and in Taiwan we call travel bubble. Yeah, and especially last 2 months since President was inaugurated, we have a lot of intensive meetings. We talked about details. We want to make sure, we travel, we open with care. We don't want our people, Taiwan is COVID safe, but not COVID free. So we still have some individual cases, mostly imported cases, and we stop them at our border. So for the past few months, only a small outbreak in one hospital, but otherwise we don't have any community transmission. So you can, have confidence over Taiwan's cleanness over the COVID-19. And I can tell you, at this time in Taiwan, we also have a press conference in announcing this travel bubble or Sterile Corridor. My Minister of Foreign Affairs, and our Minister of Health now co-hosting the press conference, announcing the same thing. And we are very happy that Palau trusts Taiwan, and we trust each other actually. So we open border for each other. This will be the first one, I believe, in the world have a real tourist come and go back. And I want to, on behalf of my government, I want to thank Palau government for opening your pristine paradise for Taiwan tourists to come. Because for the over 1 year, last year, Taiwanese people were locked down in Taiwan. So whenever there's a holiday, it's crowded everywhere. Every tourist destination are all crowded. So I believe when we open this Sterile Corridor, you will see a lot of people, lining up, want to come to Palau. So I would expect there will be a lot of tourists coming to Palau, although the cost may increase a little bit with the testing of PCR and some other cost. But anyway, I believe it will be a very successful corridor. And thank you again for opening for my people. Yeah, thank you.
One of the things I think that's important for people everywhere to understand is not only do we depend on tourists going back and forth to Taiwan, one very important reason why we've had flights from Taiwan over the past year is to take medical patients back and forth. And so by having regular flight service, it will improve the services our people can get for medical treatment. And that's so important for the families. And I was sharing in the press conference this morning that our medical referral list is almost 40 people long. And because I've called you and said, how can we get the hospitals to accept more people? And why, can we take, more people? But unfortunately, because we don't have the frequencies of the flights, we're stuck with the eight beds. And so we're hoping that that list can come down so people that really need care that we cannot provide here can get cared for. And that's really an important part of this relationship also. I think the people of Palau are excited and they want to welcome the tourists, and we look forward to them arriving. I'll be arriving with them on April 1st. That's the plan. Actually, we'll be arriving together because we're going to go and bring them in. But I think for now, let's open up for questions, and then maybe share ng ulit. Or yeah. Okay. We can share this one. We can share this one.
Mr. President, Taiwan Ambassador, I understand the flight has been sold out. How many tourists are coming with you on April 1st? I've read in the Taiwan newspaper that it was a sold out flight. How many are you expecting? And Mr. President, when are you leaving for Taiwan? And what are your plans when you are in Taiwan? Are you going to meet with the President of Taiwan?
Okay, so our understanding is that the flight, we agreed to have 110 seats sold on the flight. And it can be up to 130, but I think 110 because there's some of us that are going and have to come back, right? Mm-hmm. So maybe that's and that's great news if they've already sold out those seats. The current plan is that on March 28th, when the flight that's bringing the medical patients comes, we will return on that flight to Taiwan, have some time to visit, promote tourism in Palau, and meet with the president while we're there, and then come back on that first flight, which we will be leaving on a Sunday and returning on a Thursday. So Sunday night, come back Thursday. So, anything else? Yeah. Thank you.
This was mentioned probably a little bit this morning, but there will be no quarantine. Everybody will just come in and go to their destinations and their activities as controlled, as you said. That's correct? Yeah. So, and then following up on that, so how often will these flights be occurring? Because I'm assuming those people coming in are not going to be here for 10, 15 days.
So maybe we'll have Director of Public Health share can explain what's the restrictions while they're here, how long they're here, and then we can go into more details.
So, sulang elera malungit question ngili tasil sel mararo kuil ad marbekal adal loreng sertial talk show el alsils. So, Ministry of Health along with partners PPA, Quad.org, and Bureau of Tourism have been working really hard over the course of the last few months to ensure the guideline process that we put in place, ensure the travel bubble is safe. To answer your questions, why safe for the quarantine? As the President said, they will be tested 3 hours before they board the airplane. Upon arrival, ang separate guideline nilgiri our tourist, ang separate guideline nilgiri returning patient, escort, essential workers, returning residents or citizens that travel from outside of Taiwan and mura Taiwan and do their 14-day quarantine and mas asko gilmervelao. So no hindi ka quarantine na both tourism and non-tourism hindi nga rin a guideline that will apply to make sure luaseng nga rin some monitoring mas surveillance to make sure luaseng in the event ada ko ramo nga rin develop pa symptoms and then nga rin system in place kaya siringgel they make sure luaseng they get tested if needed if the tested they mo positive nga rin protocol will apply in place but all returning people everyone nga travel bubble met mirvela at yakang pura quarantine di nga rin restricted of movement that will apply to both group tourist and non-tourist.
Oh, the flight frequency. So the good news is that when we first started, we asked Taiwan that we want 2 flights per week for the first 2 weeks and then expand after that. The first response that came back is, that's all? So I think the demand is there. They want to increase the flights as soon as possible. So really to test this out, we'll start with 2 flights a week, then maybe 4 flights a week, and then maybe soon 16 flights a week, which is what they had asked for. But let's do step by step. Let's get 2 going and see how it goes, and then increase, because we also want to make sure that the airline has passengers, and so they need time to sell the seats. So we understand that, and we also want time to make sure that the system works well. So. Lang. Madilungilak. Oh. Yes.
Thank you for great news. I have one question. Can I speak without microphone?
They won't hear it. Sorry. You need to speak in the microphone so the radio can hear the question.
My name is Shumomose from Japan Embassy. I have one question. If people from another country, like Japan, want to come to Palau using this flight from Taiwan to Palau, what kind of protocol do they need to follow? Or they cannot use the flight?
So that's a great question, and Ambassador is here to help answer. But when we say sterile corridor, it means that everybody on that flight is basically originating in Taiwan or has been cleared in Taiwan. So the current process is that you will need to apply for a visa to get into Taiwan. You get into Taiwan, you have to clear there you stay there for 14 days in quarantine. And then you can then fly on to Palau. You will not be able to transit, for example. Fly from Japan to Taiwan, get on the plane, come to Palau, not allowed. You'd have to quarantine in Taiwan first for 14 days, then transit to Palau.
I think
maybe that can help.
I need to clarify this a little bit, because for this travel bubble, we only restrict to Taiwanese passport holder, because we come as a group activities in Palau. For other countries, passengers, only when Palau government allow them to come as essential workers, so they can come to Taiwan for 14 days as for 14-day quarantine. Then they come to Palau. They are not tourists.
Right.
I
guess that's clear.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
So
clarification.
for this corridor, we only have Taiwanese tourists, Taiwan passport holders. Yeah.
The question for the tour agency. So PBA. So there's 110 tourists, and a lot of businesses is wanting businesses. This is a welcome thing for them. So how do you ensure that all the businesses in Palau will have equal opportunity to be part of these businesses that will be coming from the travel bubble?
So I'm going to let the chairman of PVA, he can give his comments on that. Yeah.
Thank you, Bernadette. Very good question. So first, let me thank the EOC. Without their help, this wouldn't be possible, and especially the president. And I want to also say that, Mr. President, this was your only mandate for the Economic Recovery Committee on your transition team, and I think we can check that off the box. That said, the way we've been trying to approach this is for the last few months since November, since the president got on board, the mandate was to work on this corridor. So what we've been doing is the Bureau of Tourism sped up their efforts in getting all the businesses in Palau certified. So thanks to EOC, MOH, the Quad Org, and especially the Chamber of Commerce, there was an effort to get every hotel, restaurant, tour operator, and boaters certified on the COVID-safe certification. If you notice on social media and as well as some of the establishments, you'll see stickers on the businesses showing that they have passed that test. You'll see glass, plexiglass on hotel check-in counters, restaurants, and training has been ongoing. That's one thing. So in order for you to qualify, you need to have been certified by the Bureau of Tourism. There's also an effort by the Boaters Association, and they've gotten together, Mr. President, where there's going to be a taxi service. So all the boaters will be utilizing sort of a taxi stand concept, where every boater will register at BOAT first. After they're registered, then there's an organization now that's going to run the businesses in sort of a taxi stand, so everybody gets a chance to run their boats. So that's another effort that we've been doing. Another thing we've been doing is we, last week with Ambassador's help, met with all the tour operators out of Taiwan, and we briefed them on some of the protocols. And after that, we met with some of the non-Taiwanese affiliated businesses. So we met with Chamber, and so we've been spreading the word in town to every single business to one, get certified, and two, we were helping them with our office out of Taiwan. And we have a list of all the diving companies and some of the major wholesalers through our office run by Mr. Alex Lay. And we're sharing those links with all the businesses. So we're trying in our best efforts to get the non-Taiwan affiliated businesses linked to wholesalers in Taiwan. There's also a website we're going to be setting up. It's palau.travel. And we're hoping with the help of the Chamber that everybody can be advertised on that platform.
Sula, great question. And it's important that, with the recovery, that everybody gets involved. So we encourage people to get certified.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. President. So this question goes to Ambassador Chow and Steve. So the Palauans can hear this. What are some things that the Taiwanese tourists like? Have they kind of looked into Palau? Do they like coconuts or taro? Or what are some activities that they expect or would wish to do when they're in Palau for 8 days?
Yeah, I think Palau is one of the most famous tourist destination for Taiwanese. So in the past, 20, 30 years, every year there are a lot of Taiwanese come into Palau. And I think what they enjoy most is rock islands. Yeah, definitely they will go to Rock Island. They will spend at least 2 to 3 days to Rock Island. And I will also encourage them to go to Big Island, not only to the ocean, but you also have many cultural sites to visit. And I think our people also enjoy coconut, of course. Yeah, thank you.
Let me add, President. To add to that, we're working with all the state governments. So some of not only the water attractions in the Southern Lagoon, we're also working with Bayan Airang, SR, Waterfall, Balgayok, Ngaralong, and all the other bubble down states in an effort to develop a package so you can actually visit all of those sites as well.
Mr. President, since the border was closed, so this is your first trip off island in how many months, Mr. President? And how do you feel, and what are you gonna do in Taiwan? How do you feel? And this is your first official overseas trip.
So that's a great question. I was sharing this morning because it was March 17th of last year. We returned back to Palau. I was on not the last flight, but next to the last flight, and I haven't been anywhere since. So it is the first flight out of Palau, and it's a working trip. So our goal is to make sure that those flights, first 2 flights a week, will be full, and every flight after that are full, right, Ambassador? That's our goal. So we want to make sure that we demonstrate, just like the vaccine. We got the vaccine. It works, it's safe. Now we're going to demonstrate that we can travel safely also. And, we're excited because it's really been a long road that we've had to go to make sure that we're safe. But the opening of our borders is an important step that we need to take, and we believe it's time. I think this morning with Dr. Bostrom and Gafar there with their presentation made it clear that Palau, first of all, is ready. Our health care is ready. We have, we're fortunate this week that we have the team from HHS here to help us in training, because one of the things that we've had is we haven't had a COVID case, but the team that's here is experienced with COVID cases. So they're going to have some time to train our doctors to be ready to, if there is one chance of a case, they can handle it. But, I think the other thing that was shared this morning that's also very important and maybe helps with our friends in Taiwan in their understanding of safety is Palau, as of this morning, had 8,000 people with the first dose of the vaccine. And by, of course, April 17, we're already second dose, 8,000 people are covered. That's 62% of the adult population, which is really high. And then they further share that 95% of the at-risk people over 65 have been vaccinated. That's as of March 6th, which we hope that number is getting higher. And then 60% of those over age 50 have been vaccinated, the at-risk. So we've built all kinds of barriers and shields to protect our people. And that's why this date has finally arrived. And it's time to open up and help our people understand that, yes, we are taking a risk, because there's nothing that's 100% guaranteed. But the chance is 1 in 4 million. That's like winning the lottery. So we're just grateful for the efforts that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Ministry of Health in Taiwan have been working, sending lots of emails back and forth of how to finalize this program. And it's also an opportunity to also thank our Ministry of Health and all the great efforts they've had, not just to get this corridor going, but what we've done in the past year. Because I also believe that the reason why the Taiwanese people are willing to come to Palau is we are COVID-free. And we have to thank the EOC, the Ministry of Health, for keeping Palau COVID-free, so people are willing to come and visit. And Rita and her team and Cher and her team, I think we have to thank them for their efforts. And now we go to the next step. We're protected, we're safe, and we're ready. It's time. So.
Mr. President, just one very quick question. Can you clarify, is it only going to be you and the ambassador, or are there any other public officials who will be traveling with you?
Currently, it's the ambassador, myself, probably some of our staff, because I usually travel with staff. I don't know how many security, but some security, that's normal. But it's a small delegation. But most importantly, it's a promotional trip. So for sure, government officials that are traveling is chairman of PVA and director at PVA. So those are, and probably somebody from Ministry of Health. So we haven't finalized the list, but once we do, we'll share that. But thank you.
I think now many people in Palau are fully vaccinated, and if those people need to go to other countries, such as the US, and go back to Palau, do they need to be quarantined in Taiwan, or can go through Taiwan without quarantine?
Okay. Sharon,
Are you asking for those Palauan who are from the third country to come back to Palau?
Fully vaccinated.
Yeah.
Like people who are fully vaccinated.
Outbound?
So I think leaving Palau, right now there's no restriction really. I think United going to the US now, they require a PCR test. But Taiwan, no requirement for that, right? Well, we'll have to. But that's for the US. I think the more important question is, how do we return if we leave to the US? Well, there's an option coming through Guam or coming through Taiwan. If you go through Taiwan, I think it's automatic 14 days. That whether you're vaccinated or not.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that was shared at the press conference today is we might look at the policy about if we're coming from the US, what are the risks for vaccinated travelers? What was shared was, if they're vaccinated, there's a possibility that they would come into Palau, no quarantine, they would be on ROM, restricted movement, and for 7 days, and then tested, and then they're released to go into the community. That policy has not been finalized, but that's maybe a long term. What is still the policy is that if you come from Guam, whether you're vaccinated or not, which is what applies to the flight that's coming in with the Japanese on the 22nd, is everybody goes to quarantine for 14 days. That's still the policy, and that still remains. One of the things that we have to, one of the things that we discussed today at the press conference, and Kafar, I think, shared, was we have to be flexible on our policies. We want to make sure that they're strict, but we continue to look at data, we continue to talk, and then evaluate them from time to time to improve them. But yes, the vaccination and the more people that are vaccination allows us to build more confidence to maybe adjust those policies. But in the meantime, those are the two that are clear. And then maybe more adjustments in the future due to better understanding of the vaccine. So thank you.
Sorry, Mr. President, but there's some question from the viewers. What about the Palauans who wants to go to Taiwan as tourists? Are they going to be quarantined? Is it a two-way street or just one-way Taiwan to Palau, or is it Palau to Taiwan as well?
So I can only answer for Palau because we want to welcome the tourists here. I will let the ambassador talk about Palauans going to Taiwan. How about
We also welcome Palawan going to Taiwan, but because they are individual, independent traveler, they go to Taiwan not in a group, so they don't have any fixed programs like Taiwan is coming to Palau. So the restriction is different. So for example, if one Palauan, non-patients, I'm not talking about referral patients or escorts. If he want to go to Taiwan, he will enjoy the same treatment as those Taiwanese tourists going back to Taiwan. So 5 days, we call it enforced self-health management. That means they have to carry out very limited activities in the first 5 days. They cannot go to like night market, supermarket, restaurant, those crowded areas. But they can go freely outside of their residence. But need to be one man, one room, and that room need to have its own restroom, toilet, And after 5 days, they need to take a PCR test. If it's negative, then the following 9 days, totally still 14 days, they can have the self-health management, which is much easier. They wear mask, wash hand often, and keep social distancing. Is it right? Yep. Yeah, I think something like this. So they can move freely in the community. They can go to any tourist destination, but be careful about those, measures.
So I understand the president won't go to those quarantine.
President travel in a diplomatic bubble. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and I think just to clarify, so maybe that's an opportunity that the Taiwanese travel companies can come up with is a kind of a tour, just like Palau.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Maybe something we can discuss in the future. But just like when we're going on this trip, we are restricted movement when we go to Taiwan.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to be everywhere. So the group has to stay together wherever they are.
Like-
And so, yeah.
Yeah, in the future, if, for example, if you can have PCR test at the airport, then you have a group tourist. So maybe we can enjoy the same treatment. When you go to Taiwan, then no restriction. You can, spend 5 to 8 days in Taiwan.
So that's what you want. You want just like we require you to do it at the airport, we do it here. Then free.
So I know there's a Taiwanese company want to set up, PCR test at
in the
your
airport.
airport.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I know.
So definitely a business opportunity.
So, question for Ambassador Chow. So, I understand it's just China Airlines to start with, right?
To start with,
Are
yes.
there going to be other airlines?
Yep. Taiwan has China Airline, which is already operating here in the past few years, and EVA, one of the best, EVA, already applied. So EVA will probably be the second one to join in this Sterile Corridor flight. And I heard Tiger Airline, which is a budget airline in Taiwan, a subsidiary of China Airline, also plan to fly in the future.
So, is it assumed that, pardon me, so if they're all vaccinated, the frontliners who are employees of these airlines, they have like a safe for you on their, are they required to have proof? Let's say a flight attendant stays at some hot hotel in Taipei and then has to go to work the next day. Do they have to show proof that they're vaccinated, or? I guess my concern is they're in the plane, so.
So Taiwan doesn't have the vaccine. Yes.
So we haven't started.
So that's why PCR at the airport. That's the protection we have.
Including employees of planes.
Yes, I
Yeah, I
assume
think
that's the process. Yeah. So that's the sterile corridor. You disinfect them, make sure they're not infected, so when they get on the plane, it's clean all the way to Palau.
Thank you, Rubak.
So lang.
Tamali last question presente mura MOH tilmla okya mlara interviewer ngani gel SL variant tel waqt تيجي الPCR test اللي conductor airport سب ال المدة ما يجي اللي بنقرا كورا cancer na bebidar atal kilel say.
So, sa PCR airport or Belao? Sa PCR variant, so I say. Or tel tester Belao, so hindi kal sel tester lulukor nga presidente na Taiwan, sel tester gid. So, sel PCR gid, se Roche machine, same le donation ra government ra Taiwan mga sulir. Se PCR, so that's a gold standard ra testing. Se sab el Quetzalcoatl variants. Mung sab el test ra Belao, sel the test ra adeng sab el al sugo mang positive ang pick up ringil wasing ngasme era COVID. Ding di kal sab el identify wasing ngaral variant. So sa ida ko kire dal mo send out ringil mura ay gel diagnostic laboratory sel mo identify wasit yang variant or ang kel original COVID. Ding it would pick up ringil wasay tia COVID. Oo.
Sila direct apply commander el mora testing ra Taiwan. Any PCR testing pick up para COVID. Oye? Oh, siya tak pulo siya. Siya uli kadam ra PCR. That's the gold standard siya ado dong alil waseng urior. Ay gel baby ra test ta ungin din dekal wa PCR. Si kantimls mo dice literal sabel.
So ngay say del PCR ay gal rogul wal kura tested blood conduct ngan nga literature madairal wasay ay gay del PCR testing asab el pick up ay gay del trigarosal variants na meduba ay geler wa antigen testing ma antibody ay gog takalsal antibody di test sel wasing langar ngira badenge may antigen na test for current infection ding dakalsab el Pepiringa da el pick up ay gal SL variant telinguk mirulal girel cell original COVID-19. Hindi PCR ablal butigan kilwaseng sabel Quetzalcoatl variants. Sabel dirakal share alwasay tiale maternal vaccine al dobang tiayam la butigan kilwaseng effective girel ay gal rogul variants. Ay gal oo isong nga protectioner ngi so maybe hindi kal effective el wattel 94.5 to this original hindi nga effectiveness ringil muray gal kakarusal variant so doctor bi malbol di malkol wasay kidya o pasel kung kadela kara ay gal vaccines so tegi del mother na wal top line ay gal vaccines na to so la
Sumandigia ngotal comment te diri kan lamo 1 hour. Makpa kutulak pal mrenga suliu ra teal el mem kadu kelmuter kasues. Diri kal close to tel legal karmiu. Eleng dekadil trigal adangar ekrel belal sorry el mel orange. Material ok adangar belam bol kloada diri lakal sal bagik. En bolo dangil wasegida murur tial el corridor metiar teal el tagara turist ngara ay krel bela mel mal selba akla ko mal make sure ngari o teledel el protector yid mga ngari testing el bladder li ya o kal selba la gadam lang wa vaccine emla setter hospital yid mga tial teal ngari because of covid free mga mo mara lo se close to tel tol mol mari ma ule kadam ru la gal batokal niya soba aklit makpral di menanga suler adrablu rakalo rengertir gida malmol lultuil ra advisor expert modultuil tigel toktangar gida ngar belau especially Dr. Robert, Dr. Cuarte, Dr. Yano, Dr. Mogol, tigel rogun ngar hospital dire lultuil tigel expert los perti Dr. Bostrom alnara no sé el memo holding argid ma bekkal silsa aradra IOC blol ngara Zoom madadora aradra CDC ma WHO multura egid amrura egid el restriction maludel multura egid el daso di so kal chelo ase aigal doru la almutra ngala qrar tokal blu for example ablura hawaii ablel chelo ase open and malarar tourist raganada mashabal al time do they require the new PCR ekmerdra hawaii es il mararablo kida open and dinde sal open oise mal batoga igel restriction agit digi damre asuler adra taiwan el gongi el mel ngar ungel segi del tretal le ditalo ulen sebari el me abluril dirigal bal hotel waigidel mun segi datte el del los perti al clan odana drole del tokubet el tamel triga al bora bebi rabuluen el luter morme tangara quarantine el 3 me wal tabse maule tial merbela morme de ngara quarantine el simra hotela malclol te alal uk mortir kada mrenga solir sel el tira con el me holding rabulwa wa el al tamel diriga el titogra blurir Timor seguide mal di mrenga solir rogun ay alas regamento marketing ham sodi halal sodi sel marketing al orornya
Mr. Ambassador, I'll say this in Palawan first. Sula, Mr. President, in Somamul Mamador Tial Corridor mo Taiwan Palau Travel Bubble Tea. Umal Sula.
Okay, that means we get the free tea on the plane. Okay, no. Umal Sula. Dios se lo kami get other velo. Umal Sula.
So once again, from wherever you are, ako man misaw lorang sa 87.9 Ego Paradise FM, direct daw lang asuli la partner gidra Palau National Communication, lolse bakal dadal mo ikril belaw logyo internet, klutul ngutel te ala gurang asuli rogoy, dako bakal ma station gidra nganil belaw, bodorang sa regular program gid. Thank you.
Take me with